last season. Bengals defenseman Trey Hendrickson working on the team's practice field yesterday after restructuring his contract with the team this season. Monday, another hold in ended when Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin agreed on a 3-year contract extension worth up to $96 million. Great news for Jayden Daniels, who's coming off a historic rookie season. All right, welcome back in. Obviously, the band's sensational here. So grateful for them. Cam, I don't know if you can hear me, so I'm going to talk a little louder for you. Cam, who's more likely to reach the Super Bowl? You hear me?
I got you.
Okay. Daniels or Burrow?
I'm going Burrow. And, you know, it's hard for me not to understand and hear what the great Stephen A. talks about, but sometimes he gets a little beside himself. You know what I'm saying? Hello, we're here.
What?
But to say that, Joe Burrow did everything but make tackles and cover people on defense last year. When you lead the league in passing yards, passing touchdowns, and completions, and top five, in passing percentage and completion percentage, or passing ratings and completion percentage. These are things that you just have to consider. Like, he's getting better and better and better. And not only that, he has a Triple Crown winner and a #1 receiver in Jamar Chase, and he has his second option that's not too bad in T. Higgins as well. So you're talking about production. If they can figure that defense out, it'd be hard to discount what they're capable of doing, you know, for years to come.
Stephen A., let me just reiterate the question because we had the phenomenal marching band going. Thank you. Appreciate that. Who's more likely to reach the Super Bowl, as Cam was just alluding to, Jayden Daniels or Joe Burrow?
I think it's Jayden Daniels because I think he has a better team to play with. You know, you talk about if they could get their defense together. Well, you know what? If I go to Hair Club for Men, my airline would be 2 feet forward. I mean, there's a lot of ifs. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what the hell does that mean? Their defense is sorry. It's so bad, you got cats that should be ashamed to put their name on the back of the jersey. They should be ashamed to let people know they're a member of the defense. That's how bad they looked in preseason. That's how bad they looked most of last season. How many games did you lose when your offense gave you 33-plus points? Now, I don't know what you thought was crazy about what I was saying about Joe Burrow, but I'll reiterate what I have said about him. The brother's a stud, passed for nearly 5,000 yards last year, 43 touchdowns last year, you know, first in both categories in terms of passing yards, TDs, about third in QBR and what have you. Here's the issue with Joe Burrow. Over the first 2 weeks of the season, the Cincinnati Bengals, in 12 games, the first 2 games of the last 6 seasons, their record is 1-11. Now, I have personally called for an investigation into their coaching staff. What the hell are you doing during the off-season and the preseason, training camp, OTAs, whatever, that y'all are never ready to play come September? In the month of September, in the Joe Burrow era, they're 7-10-1. In the month of October, they're 10-10. That's below 500. So they really start balling in November, December, and what have you. What Joe Burrow has to do is make sure that they start balling at the beginning of this season. You got to show up and make sure that y'all ain't in an 0-3 hole like you were last year, or 0-2 hole like you were 3 other times in the last 5 or 6 years, okay? Because we know what the brother can do. We know how spectacular he can be with throwing the football as a quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. But you're the one that said Jamar Chase needed to get paid. T. Higgins needed to get paid. Trey Hendrickson needed to get paid. And the Cincinnati Bengals went out, and they paid all of them. So now it's on you. You get $55 million a year. You did beat Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship game and went to a Super Bowl back in 2021. We get that. We know what you can do. But that don't mean you don't have to do it. And I'm looking at Joe Burrow and I'm saying, you know your defense stinks.
Yep.
You know what you're going to have to do. And by the way, you'll still make the playoffs despite how trash your defense is if you show up the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season. That shouldn't be too much to ask. You can't lose 16-10 in the season opener the way that you did to New England last year. Yeah. That can't happen.
When I look at, you know, Jayden Daniels, man, a phenomenal talent. And the way he's been able to burst on the scene to make an instant impact is something that every franchise dreams of doing. We've seen it happen in C.J. Stroud.
Yep.
We've seen it happen, obviously, with Jayden Daniels. But we also seen this happen before, where first year success, other years distress.
Yes.
So I won't be so quick to crown him a Super Bowl contender yet. Does he have the skill set to do that? Absolutely. But when you're talking about somebody who's proven, the AFC better hope Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals don't figure out how to have early success.
Okay.
Because they've already have a formula to get late season wins, and that's what the season is really all about, because they have a saying in the locker room: We just got to get hot at the right times. And what better time to get hot than in November and
But
December?
where your logic is a big compromise is that you're giving the edge to a team that's missed the playoffs the last 2 years and ignoring the cats that were just in the NFC Championship game.
Right.
Jayden Daniels and those brothers were in the NFC Championship game. They just re-signed McLaurin now, so you don't have to worry about losing your primary weapon. They were willing to trade Brian Robinson Jr. to San Francisco. You got an offensive coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury, and Dan Quinn can coach. So I'm looking at the structure that they have in place, and I'm like, yo.
I think they're both game changers, Cam. I don't know about you. I got a quick take for you.
Player who may not be there. One day later, the Kansas City Chiefs will play the Chargers in Brazil, and that man definitely won't be there. Rasheed Rice accepted a 6-game suspension for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. In July, he was sentenced to 30 days in jail and 5 years probation for his role in a multi-car crash in Dallas that left multiple people injured during the 24 offseason. Rice will be eligible to return Week 7 ahead of a game against the Ravens. You want to see who they're playing? Well, some big games. According to our analytics, 4 of the Chiefs' 6 toughest opponents all season come during those first 6 weeks. The Charger game is a brutal one. I'll show you why in a minute. The Eagles, obviously, that's a rematch of the Super Bowl. The Ravens, who knows what that might be for by the time the season comes to an end. And the Lions are great. So the question is, what impact, Dan, does this have, and what more can you fill in for us here about Rasheed Rice accepting this suspension?
So people have to understand this is a result of a negotiation, right? Because that NFL tells Rasheed Rice, we feel you violated the personal conduct policy. This is the suspension we think you should get. And he says, well, no, I think it's, and the NFLPA helps. And so they get to it. They had trouble getting to a resolution, so they set a September 30th hearing date for an arbitrator who was going to rule on it. But they continued to negotiate, and they finally got to a point where he accepted 6 games. Good thing, I think, in the end for the Chiefs, because now they have certainty. They know when the suspension starts and when it ends. If it had been a September 30th hearing, you don't know when the arbitrator is going to rule. You don't know what the ruling's going to be. You have no idea when the suspension would start, how long it was going to be. So at least now the Chiefs can plan around it.
But the question is, what is that offense for these first 6 games without Rasheed Rice in it, Harry?
Still functionable because you have Patrick Mahomes at the quarterback position and Andy Reid down the plays up. Now, you're missing your most reliable wide receiver, but at the same time, you have Xavier Worthy coming into year 2. You're going to have Hollywood Brown for the start of the season. I like the young cat Tyquan Thornton, who's another deep ball threat that can take the top off the defense. And then Juju Smith-Schuster, he's a savvy veteran. They're going to be okay, y'all. You look for the most part last season, they played without Rasheed Rice. At the same time, this does, in my opinion, open up the door a little bit more for the Los Angeles Chargers and also for the Denver Broncos to try to take over the AFC West without Rasheed Rice.
So I think we also have to take into account that their defense is still going to be really good, but this is a perfect example of how football is so interconnected and there are chain reactions. So I think them having a tackle changes everything about their offense, because if their offensive lines are able to protect Mahomes, then they create some big plays. That changes everything about the way the defense approaches them. And then the short passes that Rasheed Rice was taking with a guy on his back and taking him for 10 extra yards, those then become guys open by 5 yards and so this all goes back to being able to protect Mahomes. You can protect Mahomes, and that's why they let Tyreek Hill go away. Because all right, if we can protect Mahomes, we can manufacture offense. So I'm looking to see, I'm not sure that they're going to miss Rasheed Rice as much as we think that they should, because they'll be able to protect Patrick.
And it's worth noting that the Chargers, their Week 1 opponent, lost their outstanding left tackle to a season-ending injury. So while the Chiefs are beefing up there with a first-round pick and Josh Simmons, the Chargers have questions to answer.
That's Rashawn Slater from Northwestern, who did a patella tendon or whatever it was in a practice in July. Let me put up Jim Harbaugh's numbers, by the way. The opening week, this is a very tough game. And granted, it's in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and you never know how that impacts the game. We had the one of them last year, and that was the game where Jordan Love got hurt. One way or
you.